Ooh, that went badly. Hello and welcome to the Science Fiction Double Feature Podcast, a special Disco Fever edition because we're going to talk about Star Trek Discovery. This is my co-host Terry. Say hello, Terry.
Hello, Terry. I thought you were yawning then.
No, I was doing a fantastic reference to Star Trek. Um, Yes, it was real good and definitely clear. Yes, Star Trek Discovery. We're 3 episodes in, which we were going to do this last week, but then couldn't for life reasons. But it's kind of worked out because of the way these have been structured. I think we had. It's a spoiler edition. I guess we should say that. Is it? We're going to talk about spoilers. Yes.
Uh, yeah, why not? Let's
Yes,
talk
we'll
about
talk about
spoilers.
spoilers.
Let's assume the audience has seen the show.
Yes.
Because really, if you're not watching the show, why would you be listening to a
Why would you
review?
be listening to this? I mean, yes. Okay, so what have we had? We've had two episodes. We had two episodes that released initially, so that was the week before last, which were the Vulcan Hello and the Battle of the Binary Stars, where we sort of hung out on the Shenju with Michael Burnham, our main character, Sonequa Martin Green, and Michelle Yeoh as Philippa Giorgio, and Saru, who is the best, played by Doug Jones. And then that all got taken away from us, and we got basically episode 3 was also a pilot where we met a whole bunch of new characters and a new ship and actually got introduced to the concept of the show. So it kind of works out that we talk about it now, but just before the show starts going proper. Um, starts the starts proper. Yes, I generally like Star Trek Discovery so far, even though it's had an odd beginning. Have you generally speaking?
Yes, but before we get into that, I've
Oh
got
my god,
one question that's annoying me.
hit me.
When does this take place?
That is an excellent. Okay, that's an excellent question for me. Oh, it's interesting that you don't know. Do you know? Okay, so do you know how the two different Star Trek universes work?
No. Oh,
Okay.
we should really start this off with saying Tim's the Trek nerd and I'm not. I've seen Next Generation and that's it. Um,
Yes.
so we'll get that out straight away. But continue.
Yes. So there's two different Star Trek timelines. There's the original timeline, which kind of covered which everything up to 2005, everything made from 2000 from 1966 to 2005 are all kind of in this one timeline. And then in the 2009 J.J. Abrams film, Spock goes back in time and splits the timeline. So that's why. So Leonard Nimoy's Spock goes back in time to just when Kirk is born, and somehow that splits the timeline and creates an alternate universe, and that's where the J.J. Abrams films exist. I think that's how it works. He might just go to a completely different timeline. It's not very clear, and it's not worth thinking about generally. So, except that maybe that means that Enterprise, the series Star Trek Enterprise, takes place in both, but I don't know. Um, yeah, it's too complicated to think about. Point is, it does kind of split Star Trek into two universes: the movie one and the TV one. Um,
When did that?
the new movie one and the TV and old movie one, which is convenient for legal reasons that I don't fully understand. Star Trek Discovery takes place in the TV one, so the one with William Shatner and
Yeah.
all the other TV series, not the one with Chris Pine. It takes place 10 years. I think they say this. I don't know if they say this at the start or it's definitely in what been in one of the trailers. It takes place 10 years before the original William Shatner adventures.
Ah, that makes sense. Because I knew enough about original series to know that they were at war with the Klingons, but then in Next Gen, which I've seen, their allies, I'm like, when the hell does this take place?
Well,
And
they kind
they're
of,
at war again. So.
yeah,
But
they do kind of. It goes on and off. I mean, I think they have a war with the Klingons in Deep Space Nine, but then everyone becomes friends, and well, they whack some guy, and then someone else ends up in charge. Anyway, it's sort of on and off. It's not like there's defined good guys and bad guys in Star Trek so much. Um,
all right, well that clears things up. It's a prequel to the original series.
yeah, generally speaking, but not the other prequel. That's a prequel to both series. Um, and having said that, I mean, that's it in theory. I don't think there's anything in this that definitively ties it to happening in either particular. I mean, if you wanted to think of this as a prequel to um, the J.J. Abrams films, you probably could. I mean, I'm not going to, and it's not what's intended. But I think there's nothing in it that says it definitely isn't that. It also no, I mean, there's arguments about that. Apart from a few references, it could sort of take place 100 years after the last TV Star Trek we saw, but that doesn't really work. Anyway,
Well, fair enough. We'll clear that up.
yes, it's interesting because it kind of, on the one hand, that's unclear, but I don't think it matters that much really to sort of watching it day to day. It's sort of an odd question you might ask yourself, but you're not gonna. There isn't so much continuity that you're going to be constantly wondering what's going on. I don't think, which is good. I think that's good.
No, I don't think that anything really had me trying to connect it. It was just that the war with the Klingons thing, cause I haven't seen everything, so it's like I know they were at war in the original series, but then they were allies in next gen. So I couldn't figure out if this was its own thing, or if it's after everything else, or if it was before it. So that clears it up. It's before it.
It's
So it's
before.
before that clears it all up for me.
Yes. Well, okay. So there's one other element that I'm guessing you might not be aware of in that case. So the old Vulcan guy, who is Michael Burnham's space dad, is Spock's real dad.
Okay.
So yes. So when she speaks about her stepmother reading her Alice in Wonderland, that's Spock's mum.
Ooh. So that makes her Spock's sister.
Uh, well, I mean, I say sister, or daughter, space daughter, or dads, but Sarek, Spock's dad, calls her his ward, not like his stepdaughter or anything. So I think it is technically. I don't know how
Yeah.
Vulcans work. But anyway, yes, we've muddled through all the continuity. Probably. Did you like Star Trek Discovery so far?
I have liked it. I thought the opening scene with the Klingons talking in their Klingon language about Starfleet taking their culture and whatnot, and how they should revolt against them. I really liked that, and I found myself siding with the Klingons for the first two episodes, despite that they're all looking like creatures from the Black Lagoon. Um, but yeah, I really liked that. And then you had this very striking opening for the captain. What's her name? Captain.
Which one? Captain
The
Juji?
captain. Yeah, of the Shanzu.
Yeah, Captain Jujio.
Yeah, and Michael, which threw me off as well. I'm like, I'm sure that's a girl. They're calling her Michael, but I've adjusted. And it felt like when they're in the desert, I was waiting for Mad Max to come past um, in his car and being chased by Immortal Joe. Um, but that was pretty cool. But then I thought, why are they going down to shoot a well? It seems something that they should delegate to one of the other officers, not for the top two officers of the
Of the Star Trek, of the
yes,
starship.
yes. It seems a little bit. Um, they just need to get out of the house. They've got cabin fever or something. We need to get out and do something besides be on this ship. That's what I was thinking.
It
That
could be, yeah. I mean, that's been, I mean, a structural issue in Star Trek since 1968, when yes, it was always like, Captain Kirk and First Officer Mr. Spock would always be the ones going to the planet. And they'd leave Scotty in charge, who was probably drunk, and take three guys who then got shot. It's been an odd conceit of the show that it's always needed. it's always been about the captain and the people in charge, but also they have to get in on the action. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because it's not that dangerous what they're doing. They're just going down to look at a well, so maybe they want to yes get out of the spaceship and see some space stuff and talk about stuff. So I don't know. It's just part of the conceit of the show that happens sometimes for some reason.
It's funny, Picard never really did that much. He sat in his spaceship most of the time.
Yeah, and
Majority of the time. He did get out and do some stuff, but majority of the time.
There was like a conscious decision with TNG. They kind of realized it was a bit silly to have everyone, to have the captain constantly going down to the planet and getting turned into a stone man or whatever, or having to fight the mobsters or the Nazis. And so Riker became the action man in Star Trek TNG. And then I think they continue that in Voyager, where Chakotay is kind of an action man, sort of, but to a much lesser extent. And Janeway kind of stays on the ship, except when they have to go and do something incredibly dangerous, and then Janeway's like, "I'm going to do it." Man, that's a terrible accent. And so yeah, I mean, and I guess this takes place before they figured out that they shouldn't send the captain. So I guess it kind of makes sense. I don't know why.
Surely they've got someone else a bit more. I don't know, a bit more of an expert in wells. Then let's go and shoot it, and they'll fix the problem.
Yes, the Starfleet.
How are you going to fix the captain? We'll shoot it.
Yeah.
Surely they could have shot it from space. They didn't need to go down there.
Well, then we wouldn't get established what's going on.
Sure.
Which brings us to a minor critique I have of all three episodes that we've seen. It's okay. I mean, I think actually before we go on, I'm going to clarify. Typically, Star Trek series have taken about 2 seasons to get. The early seasons have, or sort of that 90s Trek era, very much following on from. They take a long time to actually be even remotely interesting. Well, actually, that's not true. They take a long time to hit their stride and figure out what they're supposed to be doing. This has hit the ground running very much so. It's had an odd start, given that we had two the pilot episodes were basically a prequel, and then we get another pilot episode. But yes, so all 3 episodes have kind of suffered for some clunky exposition. I mean, it's quite clear that there are the conversations that take place on the desert planet as they're shooting. They are to tell us what's going on. In episode 3, context is for kings. Both Anthony Rapp Stamets and Jason Isaacs as Captain Lorca just get moments to explain stuff to us, which don't make that much sense. It's par for the course, I think, in all science fiction TV, but it's just quite obvious here, I think.
Well, I liked that we've had the 2 prequel episodes, if that's what we're going to call them. Because otherwise, if we come into it on this 3rd episode, I think it'd be very jarring to see the lead first officer, or the first officer from, like, Michael, what's the face, Burnham, as a prisoner, and we'd be scratching our heads. And yes, it'll be a cool mystery to look back at and that, but I'd rather just get all that done out the way. And we've seen what happened. We've understood why she's done stuff, and now how she's the prisoner and that.
I don't know. I think it could have functioned well enough, I guess, if you're just like, oh yeah, she committed mutiny and she started a war. So if that's really all you need to know, and as much as I complain about exposition, someone could have brought that up. I think they basically do in episode 3 at the start with the prisoners when they're discussing. She's on a prison ship going to somewhere via a storm. Space is big; just go around the storm. And it's quite jarring to have these characters, I guess, established and then taken away, and then episode 3 is trying to hit its stride, but then also introducing all these new characters, Jason Isaacs as Captain Lorca, who is the main captain of the show, doesn't turn up till episode 3. We meet Cadet Tilly, we meet Anthony Rapp as Stamets, we meet Tori from Battlestar Galactica as Landry. That was interesting. My God, she is an amazing actress. And it's again, we sort of meet all these people who don't matter for the most part. Apart from Saru and I think the Helms lady, who has a non-speaking role in episode 3, none of that stuff really is relevant. None of the people we meet are relevant. They're quite different tonally, I think. Like, the first 2 feel quite desperate and action-oriented, but very much, I thought, had a very strong Star Trek vibe in terms of what they're trying to do. They're, as much as they're sort of fighting the Klingons, they're looking for the diplomatic option, and they don't want to fight. And that opening scene is fantastic because they're on a planet. They're saving the planet by opening this well. They're not there to shoot anyone. They're there to just kind of keep this culture alive. It's good. And then episode 3 is it's very Battlestar Galactica, and also has a Battlestar Galactica person in it. It's all about secret missions and moody captains and poor lighting and body horror. It's very different tonally, and it's a whole new set of information to get caught up on.
And you know what? That's my jam. I love the body horror. I love the surly captain in there and his secrets and what he's playing in that. And it was a lot darker than any Trek I've seen before, episode 3. And I even messaged you throughout it and went, is this much gore? Like, is this a Trek thing to have so much gore in it? And you're like, no, it's new. And like, that's good. I like gore. So it felt episode 3 felt like Alien. It felt like something that would take place in that sort of realm in the Alien verse. It was that dark, and it really got me. Episode 3, I was really good at getting into it, which I was very surprised that I wasn't expecting that sort of tone from it, and then I was very happy by the end of it. Went yay!
It's interesting. I think you'll find. I suspect. I don't really have any proof of this because I haven't done an exhaustive survey. I think you'll find that people who enjoyed the first 2 episodes didn't so much enjoy the third, and vice versa. I think it's kind of going to come down to taste as much as anything. Like, some people will like certain things, and some people will like the other. It's not going to be a universal fact, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if you looked around and found that was the case. I guess, you say it looks like Aliens, and that just kind of, I think there's going to be this question, for me at least, that I don't think we'll get a definitive answer on until the series is ended, which is whether this is really properly and actually feels like Star Trek, which is kind of a silly question to ask, to be honest. It's interesting. It's kind of got to shoulder what being Star Trek, whatever that means, is right now. We've kind of, the show went off air. The last Star Trek season ended in 2005, so that was 12 years ago. In that time, we've had what are basically some space opera action movies from J.J. Abrams and co. Star Trek Beyond has some good, sort of had a very good sense that it was properly Star Trek. The first 2 I thought were not so great at that. I like the first one. Star Trek Into Darkness wasn't good. It was just references and stupid stuff, ringing up Spock. It's got that question kind of hanging over it, whether all this spy games and moody lights and such is what Star Trek should be, which is kind of a silly question, admittedly, because it's just got to be good TV where they go and explore stuff in space. Really, that's all it needs to be. But I think there's sort of a philosophical question of whether this truly is what Star Trek is meant to be. I don't think that'll be answered. I don't think that matters. It's just going to be something I'm going to wonder until I've seen how all this plays out.
It's funny when you're thinking about it. There is a major tone shift between the first 2 episodes and the third.
Yes.
And that's kind of reflective of Burnham's character, because she's the Starfleet officer in the first one, and it's all there's like action to do and there's missions to do, and it's very strategic. Um, and then the third one, she's a prisoner, so she goes to a very dark place in herself and shuts herself off from everyone, really. But that could be the Vulcan in her as well, just being a tight ass. But yeah, it's I don't know. I enjoyed all of it, but I really like the third one more. But mainly because I'm a horror fan, so it kind of the tone appealed to me a lot more than the first two. But it's very pretty as well. The space scenes, her shooting through space and all that. How pretty is it?
Yeah, like the cinematography is very, very strong, and the design is quite strong as well. We may as well mention this. So there's been a lot of nerd talk throughout the trailers, and I think still at the moment of people complaining that it's not consistent with all the other stuff. I don't think any of the other stuff is consistent with itself anyway, so this may as well look like a product of 2017. I think the space stuff looks good. I like a lot of the design. I like the design of the uniforms and the spaceships and that big Klingon spaceship. It was good.
Mm. Did you like the look of the Klingons? I've heard people quite annoyed by it that they have no hair or something.
Yeah, it's fine. I think they work. I think they're very, very striking. All their clothes, their sort of their costuming and their spaceship. The makeup, there is sort of this problem that it's very difficult to act through these huge layers of makeup. There's only a few actors, I think. Michael Dorn, who played Worf, and that British guy who's really great, not John Hurt, the other one who played the Klingon guy in Star Trek 6 and was in Chain of Command Part 2. I don't remember his name, but he's great. There's one
I'm only thinking of Alan Rickman in Galaxy Quest.
No, well, even Alan Rickman in Galaxy Quest, I'd say, is quite good at it. There's only a few people who can really act and emote through that level of makeup, so that's a bit of an issue. Regarding I mean, there's the Klingons are what, like a space empire, so they live on at least a few different planets, and presumably fill those planets up to a good degree. Some of them have hair and some of them don't. There's a whole bunch of them. I think they also have a definite idea of fashion, so maybe this was just the fashion at the time. I don't think it matters, and I don't want to watch a Star Trek where the cultures are so. Now, yes, this is the show where they go to the gangster planet and what have you, but I don't want to watch a Star Trek where the cultures are that monotonous or what have you. That it's impossible that some group of people at some point in time don't have hair. I mean, it's very silly. They just shave their heads. Maybe they take whatever the opposite of plugs is. I don't know. They can just be bald.
Is it Apocalypse Now? I'm just imagining the lead Klingon at the start just standing there with the cream on his head and the cutthroat just shaving his head.
I saw it. I think he would absolutely be doing that. He'd be like what's his name? Yes, we don't have time for such high-tone film references here. It'd be like Vin Diesel in Pitch Black when he's shaving his head. I think that's what it would be like all the time.
Or Woody Harrelson in War for the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, he'll sort of wander out and be like, "This will be a planet of apes." Anyway. Yes. What else have we got to say? Who's your favorite character, and why is it Saru?
Yeah, he's all right.
Saru's the best. My God.
But I will say this: the actor, what's his name, Doug Jones.
Yes.
I'm excited because he's coming. He's going to be Count Orloff in a Nosferatu movie coming out later this year.
Oh, is that from the guy who made The Witch? Is it that?
No, I don't think so.
Oh.
I don't think that's been made yet.
Oh.
No, this is from some guy called David Lee Fisher,
Oh,
who
that sounds like a
who
different.
has um, who directed the Cabinet of Dr. Calgary in 2005. So
Yeah.
he's pretty much just trying to redo the old ones,
Yeah.
and that's all he's done.
Doug Jones is also. I mean, he's done a bunch of motion capture, I believe. I think he was Abe Sapien in the first
Yeah,
Hellboy and maybe the second Hellboy.
yeah, that's right.
Um.
Oh, and he is in the Shape of Water.
Oh, is he? Oh, that I'm looking forward to that. The new
He's the guy in the glass cage thing.
Oh, okay, good. All right,
He's the
look forward
creature
to
from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, yeah. But yes,
So
Doug Jones Saru, fantastic. Yes, I think it's interesting to note that. I mean, the banter, I think, in the first two episodes between Saru and Michael Burnham and Captain Giorgio is wonderful fun. It's fantastic. It's maybe not the most on point. They're not exactly the Algonquin Circle, but my God, it's so much fun and it's really, really good. And I'm kind of worried that, I mean, now after the events of episode 3, I feel like the characters are going to have to work to get back to that point. He and Burnham are going to have to sort of rebuild this friendship, and that I just want that to be over. Like I want them to be back to being friends and having this sort of arguing and pushing each other aside at the console and saying like noodles and all that stuff. And I feel like that's going to take a little while. Like it has to take a while to be
yeah,
convincing, but I don't want it to. I just
I
want
was gonna say, I'm pretty sure it has to take a while. You can't really forgive mutiny and her starting a war and blowing up the ship and killing the captain
but
overnight.
really it's going to happen. I mean, it has to at some point. I mean, it has to basically be how this concludes eventually. At some point, they're going to have to get back to that. I
Well,
mean,
he recommended her for that mission, so he's like, "Yeah, she's great, except for the mutiny. She's the tops." Um,
yeah,
so yeah, I don't know if he's. I don't think I've seen enough to have a favorite character yet. Um, I'm very intrigued by the Captain Walker because I just want to see what he's up to. And now he's got this monster in a cage, which is always fun. That always works out well on contained spaceships.
yes, it works so well on the other one. Um, yeah, and he has a pet tribble, which I find fascinating. If you're a nerd playing at home, on his desk is a, and you can hear it making annoying pigeon sounds. He has a pet tribble on his desk, which seems kind of cutesy until you realize, like, how does he keep just one tribble without it multiplying ridiculously? And that's kind of terrifying that he has the power to keep a single single tribble, not a triffid. He may have a triffid as well. Um, on his desk outside a cage, and the ship isn't infested. I don't know what superpowers he has, but my god, he can control life itself. Oy.
I have no idea what you just said.
Do you know what a tribble is at all?
No,
Do you know it's a thing?
no, I'll Google it later.
Yeah, look it up later because it's hilarious. Actually, not hilarious, but it was a pretty good episode because they threw stuff at Shatner. Anyway, yes. What did you? What else? What else?
That's a lot of noise.
Yeah, making a lot of noise, thinking noises. Cadet Tilly. What did you think of Cadet Tilly? The new character introduced in episode 3, who is a space cadet on the USS Discovery.
Yeah, she's annoying, but granted, she's supposed to be annoying.
No, I don't think she is. I think she's she's an awkward space teen.
You think she's hot, don't you?
No.
Sounds like you got the Jonesing for her. You dug Jonesing for her.
Good lord.
No, she was fine. I don't know. I didn't really enjoy the rambling and the overexcited. And then the deceit. You can't sit here. We have assigned seats. Oh wait, yeah, you can. Sorry.
That was,
Yeah, I don't know. She's still got to win me over.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I guess it's interesting to see a character who is. I mean, we've typically seen that the Starfleet people are the best of the best, and they're ultra competent. And when they're not, they're people like Barclay in TNG and Voyager, who is interesting but so overacted that he looks like he needs to be medicated. And I don't mean that in as like a joke. Like Dwight Schultz, yeah, Dwight Schultz's performance as Barclay, he seems to have a serious mental illness and should not be really in charge of things on a spaceship. But here we're kind of seeing someone who they're competent but still kind of awkward and have human flaws that aren't sort of deeply, hugely problematic like mutiny. So I think it'll be interesting to see how this character goes. It very much feels like a riff on the concept of a Mary Sue, which is interesting given that that concept comes from Star Trek fan fiction and is very much some kind of Federation cadet concept. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. Maybe she's a villain secretly. Maybe she'll be ruthless. We know she wants to become captain someday, so maybe she'll betray everyone to get that. I don't know, but I'd like as well that we have a female character who has a fuller figure and realistic skin blemishes. She has a bit of acne and so forth. It's good that that's on TV.
Yeah, there's a lot of diversity in here.
In what sense?
In every sense, you got plenty of women of color, very strong women, very
Yes,
strong
it's
women
good.
throughout it, as opposed to lots and lots of white guys standing around the starship. Lots and lots of middle-aged white guys commanding.
Yeah, it's kind of a return to Star Trek being very diverse, and while that's true and what it should be, it's mostly the case in the original series. 90s Trek, I mean, it tried, and it definitely had that element, but it was not as strong. And it's kind of
Mm,
good to see them go back to this. It's really good to see two women of color as the spaceship command crew and sort of arguing about serious issues, but still basically being friends and knowing the difference between those two things. That's fantastic. Um, so that's really, really great. In addition to that, I like all the space aliens. I quite liked sort of Art Deco Lobot guy and that sort of Jeff Koons Daft Punk head lady and all the space aliens on the bridge. It's fantastic.
yeah, I don't remember them. They didn't have a lot to do.
But it's good. It's good that they're there. It's interesting that yes, we're finally at a point where, I mean, Klingons aside, we have the special effects to do something more than sort of putting goop on people's foreheads and saying, "Yep, it's a Cardassian." There you go. It's totally different from a, I don't know, whatever Jason Alexander was in that one episode. Yep, all different kinds of space dudes. They're actually different and have different things going on. It's real good, and I like it a lot.
I really did like those creatures on the planet, on the desert planet.
Oh, the
How good did they
schematics,
look?
man. Yeah, that was real
And
cool.
it looked like, I don't know if it was, but it looked like practical effects. Like it didn't look all CGI and stuff, except for like the tentacle bit. But like when he's sitting there and his head pokes out and he drinks the water and that, he felt real. And I reckon if they went back there, like I'd like to see what they're like of a night time, because now I've got in my head that they're nice and placid during the day, drinking their water and have been family, but of a night time they get really, really creepy, and quite dangerous. So I like to see them go back to that planet of a night time and get overrun by these very creepy tentacle people.
Yeah, I don't know how many space aliens we'll see. Um,
Or
4? Okay. Yeah, I guess it's interesting that since episode 3 is very much a second pilot, we don't really know for sure what the structure of this series is going to be. Whether it's going to be purely arc-driven episodes, or if they're going to have some standalone stories about all the experiments that can go on the Discovery. I mean, they can have 300 science missions going on at once. So I don't know if we're just going to sort of spend time with one of those each week, or just deal with the space insect fast travel.
Yeah.
Or what? Be good to see. I understand that. I think I've seen a random tweet from someone on the production team saying that yes, it's going to be, there's going to be a few standalone episodes. So I think that'll be good. It'll be good to see. It'll be good to see. It means that the series can cover more ideas by doing that, rather than having to sort of focus on one concept ultimately and reach one conclusion about it. We can see a few different things. I think that'll be good. That'll be good, and that'll make for good Star Trek at the very least.
And it'll get Burnham out of her quarters, confined quarters, unless she's doing a mission.
It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because I guess now we have to think is she going to, what is the end game here? Is she going to become a captain finally? Does she think she deserves to be or want to be a captain? How is that going to change? I don't see what a happy ending for this would be. Which is not to say it necessarily means it needs a happy ending, or will have one, or should have one. I just don't understand. But they've presumably got to work towards one, and I don't know what that would be, apart from ending the war. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to play out.
If she becomes captain before Cadet Pippi Longstockings, that's going to piss her off.
True. But I think, I mean, if we're going to see it, so yeah, Jason Isaacs, Captain Lorca, and his hanger-on Commander Landry.
Yeah.
They're kind of villainous, so presumably they'll be, in all likelihood, they'll be defeated at some point, and someone else will have to become the captain of something. I'm hoping that's Saru. I mean, it clearly should be him, right?
It probably should be. But does he have the balls to be a captain?
Well, yeah. I mean, he was. I reckon so. I mean, he's second in command already, so he's pretty much there.
Yeah, he's pretty much there, but he he even said he's their primary, like his species knows when to run away because there's danger. So let's all just run away.
I mean, it's not a bad solution.
It's not really Star Trekky.
Well,
Something's gonna happen. Let's go. Get out of here. Get the spaceship out of here. We're not dealing with stuff. Yeah, so I don't know if he's got it to be captain, honestly, from what we've seen.
Fallen. I mean, he wasn't like all panicky in Battle of the Binary Stars, when they were kind of drifting into an asteroid field with no power. He was doing pretty well there, so I reckon he could be a rad captain.
All right, we'll agree to disagree on that.
Okay.
From there, well, it's only been 3 episodes. He might grow a backbone.
Yeah, I'm
I
hoping that Lorca at least is a lot more complex than what we've seen. And I mean, we kind of know that he's very driven, and is doing some unethical things for what he thinks are the right reasons. So I'm hoping they're a bit cleverer with that than just you're wrong and dark stuff, and let's fight him in the corridors, and then he gets eaten by one of his own space monsters. I'm hoping it's a lot more complex and interesting than that.
Oh, that sounded great.
You can go and watch, I don't know,
Anything ever.
Resident Evil 4. I think that happens. You can go and watch that.
All right, I won't be doing that.
Oh, you should. It's good.
Resident Evil. Ugh.
They're great. They're the best.
Underworld is so much better than Resident Evil.
Anyway,
That's not what we're here to discuss.
It is not.
We're not going to get into a vampire versus zombie debate.
No, we cannot. What else? Have you got any nitpicks you need me to explain? I can try and explain stuff.
Nah, I think I'm handling it all right. Yes, I just keep up with the dark tone. Can't wait for Walker and these shenanigans to get out.
Are you excited for the next episode? The butcher's knife cares not for the lamb's cry. Oh, that's a lot of words.
That is a great title. I want that to be wrote on my tombstone.
But you're not a butcher. I mean,
Well, I've got years to change that.
you're not wrong.
Well, then I've got years to change that.
Yes, you can embark upon you've still got time to embark upon a career as a butcher to ensure that the tombstone engraving that you want is relevant.
That's going to cost a bucket load, all those letters.
Do they charge by the letter? I don't know.
I think so. I think it's like a newspaper.
Oh.
The butcher's knife cares not for the lamb's cry.
Yes.
I like it. That might be my new motto. I do. I really like that.
I guess
We can see that in that title there. We're continuing down a dark path here.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's going to be all cranky and weird. Who knows? Anyway, yes. So that's out Monday, isn't it? Monday evening at 8 o'clock our time.
5 my time. Oh, 6.
Okay.
6 my time.
Which is 8 o'clock my time, I think. 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. Yeah, it's interesting. We should note something else. We're in Australia and New Zealand, so we don't have to watch CBS All Access. And it's just on Netflix here. And when it starts, it starts with a plate that says a Netflix TV series. So it'll be interesting to see if how the different distribution methods of this affect it going forward. Because if it's not too successful on CBS All Access, which is what a lot of people in the States have been complaining about, that they have to subscribe to a new service in order to see Star Trek Discovery, but is successful on Netflix, is successful everywhere else in the world. It'll be interesting to see how that affects the production, whether it, presuming for argument's sake that it doesn't succeed on CBS All Access, whether the production will still go forward as a Netflix show, because CBS would still get residuals, I would imagine, in that case, and how that would affect how it's sold and how it's made, whether it would be as American-centric as it previously has been, but isn't so much at this point. And what that might look like for future Star Trek. It'll be interesting to see.
That's an interesting thought.
We'll have to see. But anyway, I guess that's all we have to say on the subject of Star Trek Discovery here at Science Fiction Double Feature. So shall we wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm having a stretch.
There you go, some fantastic audio for you at home.
Good.
What are we? We're Science Fiction Double Feature Podcast. You can find our main blog at sfdfmoviereviews.tumblr.com. You can find us on Twitter at sfdfmoviereview singular. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/sfdfmoviereviews. If you want to listen to the podcast, we're at soundcloud.com/sfdf. Or wherever good SoundClouds are found. You can find us on iTunes. Just search SFDF on iTunes. We're on YouTube somewhere, but I don't know where. And you can email us at in space no one can eat ice cream @gmail.com. And if you want to find links to all these things I just said and other good stuff, it's down the right side of the main blog, which again is sfdfmoviereviews.tumblr.com. All right, so I guess that's it from us. I'm going to go and get some pizza at 9 o'clock in the morning. That's not strictly accurate. I'm going to do some other stuff first. But I'm going to go get a pizza. So yes, I guess say goodbye, Terry.
Goodbye, Terry.
All right, bye everybody.
Bye.